Hi, welcome back. So in this video, we're going to be looking at a different type of background in CSS. So now that we've covered basic color types and we've also covered a little bit of background and using backgrounds, we're actually going to move on to an alternate way of creating backgrounds, and that's through background images. So right now we know the basics of coloring. So we're able to color text now with our own custom colors using a color picker. We can also go ahead and use our own backgrounds and things like that with our own colors. But now what I want to cover is looking at different types of backgrounds themselves. So in this case, we're going to be looking at images. So first of all, when we want to set the background to an image, we can't just go ahead and add an RGB color code. We're going to need to go and actually link to an image. So I'm going to show you a really easy way of doing this. The first thing we're going to need is an image, and for this method you can actually use images from the internet without having to download them using URLs. So I'll show you how to do that now. So if I go ahead and search for a landscape image, just like this, and now we want to look for a sort of low resolution one. We don't want something too big. I think this would be pretty good. It's going to look a little bit weird, but just for this purpose, we're going to use it. So now what we need to do is get the URL link to this image. So you can do this by right-clicking on it, and then you're going to go ahead and click on copy image address. Okay? So what this is going to do is get the actual link to the image itself. Right now, this link is going to Google Images, but what we actually need is the link to the image itself. So there we go. We have that set up. Now we need to go ahead and add the image to the page. So under here, I'm going to just erase this color code for now, and I'm going to show you how to add our image. So there's this thing in CSS, they're called functions. Now, we're not really going to go very in-depth about them, but pretty much what they do is they take a few inputs, they process them, and they give an output. So the first example of a function that we've already used is this right here. It takes 3 inputs, a red, a green, and a blue, does some magic behind the scenes, and then gives us a color back. So what we're going to do here is use another function called URL. So what this is going to do is take in the link to a URL, and then it's going to find that image and set it. So in quotations, it does have to be in quotations, just remember that. You're then going to paste in your image. So remember, I just copied this from the image address, and now we have it here. So we have the image. Let's go ahead and check it out on our website. So there we go. You can see that, you can see that our image is set here. Now, there's a few issues, obviously, with the repetition and everything, but we're not going to be covering those until maybe in a few videos where we talk about some other background properties. But there we go. For now, we've actually set our image, and now it is set on our website. So when you think of a URL, you're most likely thinking of linking to Google Images or some sort of web URL. But that's not the only type of URL that we can use. A URL is just a link to an endpoint. This right here is a URL. It's just not linking to a website. It's instead linking to a local picture or style sheet or whatever you're trying to link to. So what I'm actually going to show you is that we can use these local URLs in here. So I'm going to erase this. It's a little bit long. Now I'm going to paste in our new URL here. Go ahead and refresh the page. And now you can see that it still works perfectly. Because again, it's linking to an endpoint. It's just not on a website. It's instead stored on our local machine. So there we go. We have that set up now. But there's actually another way that you can set background images. And this goes the same for background colors. So why I like to use the background property is because you can set anything you want in one go. You can set it as a color, as an image, and you can do many other things. But instead, you can actually use very specific properties that work for specific values. So for example, in this case, we can use background image. And from here, we can go ahead and copy paste the URL like that. Make sure to add your semicolon. Now I'm going to go ahead and erase this and show you that it still works perfectly fine. So you can see I refreshed the page and it's still working. And this goes the same for background colors. You can go ahead and add a background color and then add some random RGB value. I'm just going to go for a full black for now. And you can see that it still works. The only problem is if I go ahead and paste in that URL here, if I go ahead and paste in that URL here, just going to link to it straight. So if I go ahead and add the URL to the color, it's not going to work because this is specifically for colors. All right, so there we go. That's pretty much it for background images. It's quite easy to use. All you have to do is make sure that you have a working URL. You can just test it by putting it in and seeing if the background's loading properly. And from there, just use your URL function and a suitable property, such as background or background image, and you should be good to go. All right, let's move on.